Hey guys, we just hit 1,000 subscribers, which is in my mind a pretty big deal. The first 1,000 is always a really big goal, a pretty large hump to get over for most channels. And to celebrate, I've asked you guys to ask me whatever you want. Now, most of these questions are Yu-Gi-Oh! I think all of them are Yu-Gi-Oh! Related, and most of them are unsurprisingly Burning Abyss related. But let's just go through them. I'm going to start with the most upvoted one, asked by Trevor. What version of Burning Abyss do you think will be better upon the release of Cherubini in a couple months' time? I know PK Fire has better going first options like Fogblade, but Sekka is just so powerful. So this is an interesting question because I don't think we actually fully know yet, and there's a couple reasons why. So first of all, we don't know what all of the cards in dual power are. I think we know most of them, but there are a few that are not confirmed. So for example, if Needle Fiber were to be a card in there that we are unaware of yet, that changes quite a bit about the metagame. We also don't know what all of our TCG exclusives are, for example, in Dark Neostorm. So I don't think we know what the new Dangers effect is yet. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure we don't know what its effect is yet. If we do, this is going to sound really stupid. Anyway, we also don't know what Time Thief cards we might be getting. We don't know if, we kind of saw all of what we're going to get in Savage Strike, or if they're going to release a lot more in Dark Neostorm. They work through detaching materials from Xyz monsters and such. So you could imagine that the Time Thief cards could end up benefiting Burning Abyss. We may see some sort of hybrid deck in the future, particularly if you're running a more Xyz-centric one with Phantom Knights and such. We also don't know what the ban list is going to look like. There should be one ban list between now and WCQ and before Dark Neostorm, I'd imagine. So we don't know if we're going to have Azathoth combo still. Probably not, but we don't know. We don't know if Summon Sorceress is still going to be around. We don't know if Rusty Bardiche is still going to be around. We don't technically know if any of the Dangers are going to be hit, or in what capacity. Heck, maybe even Sekka's Light could somehow get hit. I highly doubt it, but that's something that could happen. And so those are complicating factors that really make it difficult to say which is going to be the better variant. Obviously, Cherubini, at least right now, benefits the Phantom Knight variant of Burning Abyss a lot more because it makes their sort of most optimal plays more consistent. It makes it really, really easy to just turn 2 level 3s into a Rusty Bardiche and all kinds of other stuff. Doesn't really benefit Sekka's too much. Obviously, Sekka's light variants will still play 1 copy probably, but you just never really know if there's going to be a new combo discovered with it or not. Probably not. We've had plenty of time to find one. Barring any brand new cards, new TCG exclusive cards that drastically change things, I highly doubt that the usefulness of Cherubini is going to be substantially more than what we think it is currently. I think that kind of answers your question. I can't really give a super straightforward answer like, oh, definitely Sekka's will be better than Phantom Knight, but there's just so much that could change based on the ban list or our TCG exclusives. I think it's too early to call yet. Sean asks, can you do a video discussing the viability and problems of Burning Abyss Infernoid, Pure with Sekka, Phantom Knight Stun, and any other variant? Thanks. Yeah, I think it's about time to do another video discussing the different variants of Burning Abyss that have been floating around. Around 6 months ago or so, when I started taking this channel a little more seriously as a hobby, I made a video detailing the different variants of Burning Abyss that were relevant at the time, and it is so extremely horribly out of date. One of the variants I talked about was Beast Burning Abyss with like Rescue Cat and stuff, which isn't seeing any play at all right now. So, and you know, that doesn't even include anything like Earth Burning Abyss or anything like that. So I think we're due for another video like that, and it got some upvotes, so clearly there's a desire for that video. So I think that's a video that will be coming out fairly shortly. Alexis asks, I just want to know if Burning Abyss can be played in a high tier and how. And is Cherubini gonna change something? I'm really desperate, frowny face. So I feel this pain. Burning Abyss is not very good this format, as I've detailed in my video that was titled something like The Problem with Burning Abyss this format. And I think Burning Abyss can still be played at locals for sure. It's a great locals deck. You can top a regional with it. It is harder to do that than it was a couple months ago. If you're still looking for your invite to WCQ, you can do it with Burning Abyss, but I feel like you have to actually be probably a pretty good player to do that. If you are a newer or less experienced player, I think there's a considerable amount of luck that's going to be required for you to top with Burning Abyss at a regional, just with your matchups and whatever. Just the popularity of Salamangreat is going to be very difficult for Burning Abyss to deal with, because it really hates going into decks with traps, and Salamangreat obviously sets up with at least 2 traps, just standard, sometimes more. The Sanctum variant really sucks. Artifact Sanctum in general really sucks for Burning Abyss, and unfortunately that card, Summoning Artifact Scythe, is really popular right now. So I think the deck's fine for regionals. If you're trying to top a YCS, probably go find a different deck to play, to be honest. I think Burning Abyss can still be a fun deck if you weren't really planning on topping anyway. Topping YCSs are obviously very difficult, and the vast majority of people who are participating in them don't really have a shot in hell of topping. If you're just going for fun, obviously still play Burning Abyss, but yeah, if you're really hyper-focused on topping, and you have the money to invest in a better deck, I would definitely go ahead and do that for the rest of this competitive season. BW asks a very similar question. Do you think Burning Abyss will survive in viability this year? I know you talked about it before, but with incoming Cherubini and probably a restriction in dangers in the incoming months, will it give Burning Abyss a chance to shine again? So I realized I kind of missed part of Alexis's question, which is Cherubini going to change something? Which is something that's kind of brought up in this question. So first of all, I'll go back and sort of address the Cherubini thing. It depends on the variant. I think for the Phantom Knight variant, it is a buff to the deck. For the Sekka's variant, probably a very small improvement. It doesn't drastically change anything. Will Burning Abyss survive in viability this year? I don't think it's particularly viable for premier events, you know, Championship Series, WCQ, for the rest of this competitive season. I think through WCQs, Burning Abyss is just not, it's just not like a YCS top 32 caliber deck right now. The meta is not in a good place for the deck. The changes on the ban list, the banning of Snow was really painful, and the rise of the Azathoth combo, the Salamangreat deck, just all bad things. I will say after WCQ, when we're getting back into the new season next year with YCS Portland, etc., I think we can revisit Burning Abyss, and depending on the next ban list and the one after that, things might change. I think Burning Abyss is technically viable. Again, locals, more or less at regionals, just not really YCSs. Nathan asks, or well, he starts with a statement, but then asks, we all know that dangers are most likely going to be hit on the next list. While this may affect the Burning Abyss engine a bit, this is mainly concerning the future of the TCG meta. However, since each of them are not once per turn, and all of them can be used as free special summons and draws during their first effects, my question is this. How do you hit dangers so that they become fair? Engine cards such as Nessie, Jack, and Such, all to 1, all banned, all limited. What do you think is the correct way to balance this archetype? So, first of all, this starts out with the statement that dangers are going to most likely be hit on the next list. I actually sort of disagree with that. I actually think that it's probably less than 50% likely. In fact, I think it's extremely unlikely that the Danger Engine gets hit directly on this next ban list, particularly because it's going to be the ban list that WCQs are played under most likely. And Konami has a history of not wanting to shake up the meta too much with that ban list. I think it's very likely we're going to be seeing hits to the Azathoth engine, so we aren't going to be seeing the Orcus Danger deck as it exists now, most likely, but I don't think they're going to sort of double hit combo decks by taking away Azathoth and doing any major hits to Dangers. Even if we get like a small change to Dangers, the most likely change is Nessie limited. I think the general consensus is that Nessie is the best Danger, and the reasoning being that when it accidentally, discards itself with its own effect, that is suboptimal, but it searches another Danger, which gives you another chance to get the special summon and draw. So, again, best one. That one could be limited. Pretty unlikely, even then, just that hit until after WCQ. How would I hit Dangers, though? So me personally, before WCQs, I actually probably would go with the limit of Nessie. I don't know if that would really make them fair, per se, especially in the long term. But just to kind of see what that does to the engine, and just to maybe give a small hit to like Thunder Dragons and stuff. Just see what that does. I do think maybe limiting Jackalope and Tsuchinoko in the future is another consideration after WCQs. None of the other Dangers so far are really worth hitting. A lot of them are either mediocre or just quite frankly bad. So those are the only 3 I would ever consider hitting, the one that you listed, Nathan. But I just kind of don't think they're going to be hit before WCQ. Maybe I'm wrong, I've been wrong before, but I think it would be a little bit of a trend break for them being Konami to do so. Two Shoes asks, do you collect cards and or decks? If so, what are some of your favorites? So, collecting cards and decks is something that I want to do more than I actually do. I actually do have quite a bit of interest in older cards or building decks from earlier formats that either I played in and have gotten rid of, or played in and maybe it's a meta deck that I couldn't afford at the time, or maybe even much older formats that I never got to play in the first place. I've also, looked at individual cards that I remember from my childhood, or just cool older cards, just wanting to own them, collect them. Most of the time, though, I end up coming back to the fact that it's not really a great investment for me, considering I do have, not a super tight budget, but definitely a budget that prevents me from, just shelling out, $1,000 for the best meta deck every format. And so instead of investing in things that are mostly just, just to have, really, I need to be investing in cards that I'm actually actively using in the current format. Of what I do have, obviously I've kept a lot of the decks that I've played over the years. Some examples being Chaos Agents and Dragoonity, and, a more recent example would be Paleozoic, are decks that I played and did not get rid of. I still hold on to pretty much all the cards from those decks. As far as cards, I already talked about having some Dragoonity stuff, but, I have some Italian Dragoonity stuff, and, Italian cards can be pretty difficult to get in the United States, where you have to pay, ridiculous ridiculously high shipping costs to get them over here. So I value those, and I have some ultimate rares, like my ultimate rare Black Rose Dragon, that even if they're not, you know, hundreds of dollars, they're fairly expensive cards that I do just really enjoy having. I also have a GOAT format deck, I guess, if that counts as something to collect. I think GOAT format's just kind of interesting. It's kind of fun, just because it's a really old format. Some of the really old formats, like Metal Raiders format and stuff, are kind of fun to play, and a lot of people have GOAT decks, so that's an older format that you can actually play. Yeah, I don't know. Something I'd like to get more into, but just not something I really have the extra cash for when I'm playing the game fairly competitively. Kemp asks, what is one old Yu-Gi-Oh card you would like to see get support? I want Hungry Burger to be a competitive archetype. I agree full-heartedly with the Hungry Burger being a full archetype. For myself, I continue to look at a lot of the original series cards, you know, things like Dark Magician, Blue Eyes, Buster Blader, Black Luster Soldier, Red Eyes. I've gotten newer archetypes. Going back to some of Yugi's cards, not Yu-Gi-Oh's cards, Yugi's cards. Celtic Guardian, Giant Soldier of Stone. He had some of the Imp cards like Feral Imp and Horned Imp. Cards like that, I think, are what I'm primarily interested in seeing get more support. Celtic Guardian already has some additional cards, like more modern retrains and such. I'd be really interested to see them add more to it and try to make it a real deck with some viability. I think that would be really cool. So I think Celtic Guardian is probably my choice for that. Really good question. Life of Park asks, do you think that BA will retain the Sekka's Light build post Cherubini? Yeah, probably. I don't really think there's going to be any kind of Phantom Knight build that completely, I suppose, obsoletes the Sekka's Light build. I think there's going to be a Sekka's Light build that's somewhat competitively viable, regardless of Cherubini existing or not. Two Shoes asks a second question. What are some of the struggles you've had with Yu-Gi-Oh in the past, if any, and what helped you keep Yu-Gi-Oh interesting and worth playing? So the first kind of part of this question, so I guess in some ways Two Shoes is asking three questions. They're all great questions, though. So the first part of this, struggles I've had with Yu-Gi-Oh, I think getting your first invite to WCQ is actually a pretty big hump to get over, especially when you're playing budget. That can be pretty difficult to do sometimes, because there's a lot of mindset stuff that's important, and there's actually a decent amount of preparation. You have to be playing the game actively, or even just getting top 32 at a regional can be kind of difficult if you're not really actively playing and you're prepared for the matchups that you're likely to see. And so that's something I think I struggled with getting the first one. Admittedly, you know, the first invite I ever got was basically me finally buying a meta deck, or at least, you know, like 98% of it. So I guess I sort of cheated past that obstacle a little bit. But honestly, if you're having trouble topping tournaments and you're just playing all these budget rogue decks that are kind of gimmicky, the easiest solution to that is to save up money and just buy a meta deck. So, pro tips from Yamaroshi. And what helped me keep Yu-Gi-Oh interesting and worth playing? I think being willing to take a step back and play more for fun rogue decks, especially if you're been playing competitive Yu-Gi-Oh and you're playing mostly meta decks. Just playing a fun deck for a tournament, or just going to locals for a few weeks, playing a different deck, maybe choosing a deck that is slightly lower tier, but is personally more fun to you. It's more unique in the meta. That's always a good time. If you have the money to invest in more than one deck, I highly suggest it, because it helps you gain a better understanding of the overall metagame. You're going to understand the matchups against that deck when you're playing the other one a lot better. there's just all kinds of benefits to playing multiple decks, and I think mixing it up and playing a little bit of both, maybe playing one for a couple weeks and then the other one for a couple weeks, you know, maybe committing to one for a month before a regional, play the regional with that one, and switch back to the other one. You're just mixing it up in general with the kinds of decks you're playing, keeps it pretty fresh, at least in my mind. And honestly, if the format is just super boring to you, taking a break from playing for a few weeks, especially if it's just, you know, right before a ban list or before a new set, it's going to shake things up a little bit. I think that's fine. Don't force yourself to keep playing when you're not having fun. Andrew asks, what is your favorite Burning Abyss card for either lore, art, or effect? Okay, so I wish I had a really unique, quirky answer for this, like Kagna, but there's only one deck, or excuse me, only one card that I've basically built an entire deck for, and that is Beatrice, Lady of the Eternal. So I have to say, I've been a big fan of Burning Abyss ever since its release in Duelist Alliance, but for a long time I couldn't really afford to play the deck because Dante's were like $100 and you needed 3 of them. It was one of my favorite decks for a long time. I was playing kind of rogue decks during Duelist Alliance format. During Necros format I was playing Ritual Beasts, but in 2016, you know, Dante was reprinted. I was kind of looking at maybe playing Burning Abyss again, but I wasn't quite sure. When Beatrice came out, I thought that card was so cool because it gave Burning Abyss a little bit higher of a ceiling. Burning Abyss still wasn't that high of a ceiling of a deck compared to other stuff that was meta in the format like Cosmo and Monarchs, but it gave it a little extra oomph. Making double Beatrice on your first turn felt amazing. I just really like the effect of the card, the versatility of being able to send anything from your deck to the graveyard, and if it's destroyed, you get to slam down Dante Pilgrim of the Burning Abyss. And, you know, I thought a lot of the other boss monsters for Burning Abyss, like Malakota and Dante Pilgrim, were cool, but they weren't really practical. So Beatrice not only was a very easily used and powerful Burning Abyss boss monster, but also let you have a use for Dante Pilgrim. So I thought that was super cool. And so I played Burning Abyss during that format, and later towards kind of in the twilight hours of Beatrice being at 3, there's a player from Australia or New Zealand, I think, who made a deck called Beatrice Turbo. It was basically a bunch of level 6 extenders, and the whole point of it was to open 3 Beatrice on your first turn, and it was pretty consistent. It was a pretty legit deck. It topped some regionals and stuff. So I absolutely loved Beatrice Turbo. So I think I have to say that Beatrice is easily my favorite Burning Abyss card. But that isn't to say that I don't enjoy quite a lot of the other cards. But when you build an entire deck dedicated to turboing out 3 copies of her, yeah, that just seems like an obvious answer. James asks, what's your favorite card lore? So obviously I like a lot of the kind of TCG exclusive cards that reference real life movies or books. So, you know, Burning Abyss, obviously Inferno, the Noble Knights referencing King Arthur and all that, Cosmo, more into the Star Wars aspect of it than the Wizard of Oz part. So I kind of like all those, but I am a pretty big fan of the dual terminal story arc. I mean, really any of those archetypes, really, I find to be quite interesting. I like a lot of the World Chalice and Orchist stuff right now, actually. So kind of the World Chalice Orchist stuff, I would say right now. Probably some recency bias in that. I do like some of the older dual terminal story arcs. But yeah, I think I'm going to go with that. Joseph says, get well soon, dude. I'm trying. You can probably hear it in my voice that I'm not totally healthy. And as we get further and further into this video, my voice gets lower and more gravelly and continues to die. But we're almost there. We're almost done. As for questions, does Cali Effect's newest Burning Abyss deck profile change your thoughts on the viability of Burning Abyss? Also, are you going to consider playing Salad Boys this format? So addressing the first part of the question, I'm subscribed to Cali Effect. I've seen his deck profile. It's a Chaos Burning Abyss deck. I don't believe it runs any dangers. Maybe it does. I don't remember it running any. I really appreciate that Cali Effect is interested in Burning Abyss. I think that's really cool that there are other Yugi tubers that are invested in the deck. That being said, I don't know if his deck building is particularly amazing or revolutionary. It's an interesting idea, but I don't think his Chaos Burning Abyss deck is any better than the Danger variant or the Earth Burning Abyss deck. Yeah, it's cool, basically, but no, it doesn't really change my thoughts on the viability of Burning Abyss at all, considering I don't even think it's the best variant of the deck that we can play currently. As to the second part of the question, am I going to consider playing Salad Boys or Salamangreats this format? Maybe. So, as I've mentioned in my video saying that Burning Abyss is effectively not that good this format for premier events, I said, I don't know what I'm going to play this format. Like I mentioned before, I was playing Burning Abyss, I was playing Prank Kids, I was playing Altergeist. Those were the core 3 decks that I've been playing the last year or so. None of those are really that great right now. Prank Kids, I believe, also missed Top Cut. Altergeist has been missing Top Cut for a couple YCSs now, as so has Burning Abyss. So Salamangreats are relatively cheap compared to a lot of the other meta decks right now. Maybe. I'm strongly considering Salamangreats. Sky Striker is also a deck that I'm thinking about. It's definitely past its prime, but engages aren't too expensive right now. I think it's a solid deck that I can play now that will also be viable at WCQ. So that's definitely an option. I definitely like to hear what you guys would like me to play. Another deck I'm considering is Crusadia Guard Dragon, but I'm not so sure it's going to be good after the next ban list and once Dark Neostorm comes out, because Saryuja is fairly likely getting limited, I would think, and they really like to make multiple Saryuja on their first turn. So maybe that's my answer. And finally, Laurel asks, when do we get to see your face? So I'm going to kind of go off on a tangent for a little bit for this question. So you may very well get to see my face within the next couple months. So I'm going to both NAWCQ in Pittsburgh in June, and I'm also definitely going to YCS Portland in August. And so I'll probably have a video where I show my face, just so that you guys can come up, meet me, talk to me. If for some weird reason you want me to like sign your Scarm or something, I can do that too. So yeah, I'll probably have a video with my face in it, just so you guys can recognize me at the large tournaments that I'm going to be going to here in North America. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be traveling to Europe anytime soon. I don't know anyone who really wants to meet me that badly, but it'd be cool if any fans just wanted to come up and say hi. So that, I believe, should round out all of the questions. My voice is indeed getting progressively worse, and I don't know how much longer it's going to hold out. Again, thank you so much for the 1,000 subscribers. Also, thank you to anyone who made it through this whole video. I honestly lost track of how long this has gone, so I don't know what kind of monstrous length this may end up being. But hopefully it didn't take too long, and my questions, my answers were worth listening to. So I will see you guys in my next video. It'll either be a discussion about Salamangreats, or I might do the video talking about the different variants of Burning Abyss, or maybe it'll be a deck review or something. I want to really start getting maybe one more deck review of like a topping deck, then I might start taking submissions from subscribers. So I want to start on that pretty soon, and yeah, that's all I have to say. So bye.